Time for the mid-year book Freakout tag, 2022 edition. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zach with Zacks Books, and today we have got the mid-year book Freakout tag 2022 edition. There are 13 questions technically, but I think I'm only going to do 11. 12 or 11. I'm skipping one. But yeah, otherwise I've got my books here. I'm very excited to do this. We are halfway through the year finally, and I shouldn't say finally, it's been pretty quick. But yeah, no, not as good of a reading year as I've had previously, but I am working on it. We will have these books linked down below if any of them intrigue you in any way, shape, or form. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let's get into the list. Alright, like I said, I've got the questions on the phone. I will be reading them, well, off the phone. So the first one is, best book you've read so far in 2022. So, it's an obvious choice, and that is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This has been by far the best book I've read this year. I want to say the next closest one is another book that's in this stack. I have not read any banger Stephen King books this year. I think I've only read like 3 or 4 maybe this year. And nothing really has like popped at me yet. So the only obvious choice for best book of the year so far has been Gone Girl. Pretty much this is about a guy, Nick Dunn. He awakes on his, I think it's his 5th anniversary with his wife Amy, and they have breakfast together, and he goes to the bar which he co-owns with his sister, and he comes home. There is a crime scene, there's blood on the floor, things are not right, and Amy is gone. And that's about all I can really say for you guys in this. And it's just such a good book. The movie's like perfect for this. It's like almost the exact same thing. So, best book of the year for 2022 so far is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Alright. Question 2, best sequel you've read in 2022 so far. And that is The Ravenous Dead by Darcy Coates. This is the sequel to The Whispering Dead, obviously by Darcy Coates. In this one, we are following the story of Kira from book 1, and pretty much how she is still adjusting to like the graveyard like job and gig that she has as the groundskeeper. But the difference you get with this is in the first one, she's more like she could talk with the ghosts and interact with the ghosts, but in this one, a certain one kind of starts getting more physical, and it's the first time she's ever had to deal with like a more physical contact with a ghost. So I thought it was really intriguing. I enjoyed the heck out of it. Pretty sure I gave it 4.5 or 5 stars. There is a third book in this. It's going to be a trilogy. I do not remember what it's called, but it is also a book I'm very excited to get to. So, there you have The Ravenous Dead by Darcy Coates. Alright, question 3. New release you haven't read yet, but want to. So, pending when we post this video, this book will have already been released, or it'll be releasing in like a day or 2. So that's why it's going in this spot. And that is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. Obviously, it's a Riley Sager book. I've read everything that he has come out with so far. They have all progressively have gotten better. Survive the Night and the Home Before Dark are the 2 most recent ones. And those 2 are pretty close with each other. I would say Survive the Night was just a tiny bit better because the ending made me happier, where it actually made Danielle more upset. So, I'm very excited for this one because, again, like I said, it's Riley Sager. I am trying to go into this blind. I don't want to know a whole lot about it because Danielle read Survive the Night before I did, and I told her not to say anything to me. And so I don't have a whole lot about it, but if you want to go to Goodreads and read about what this is going to be about, go ahead. But I want to try and leave this as vague as possible because it's Riley Sager, one of my favorite authors, and I don't want to know a lot about it. So there you have The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager as my recent release that I am most excited to read. Alright, next question. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Alright, so my most anticipated release for the second half of the year is Stephen King Fairy Tale. I'm very excited for this one. I'll read a little blurb about this one. Legendary storyteller Stephen King goes into the deepest well of his imagination in this spellbinding novel about a 17-year-old boy who inherits the keys to a parallel world where good and evil are at war. And the stakes could not be higher for that world or ours. I'm, based off of the cover photo and like things I've like kind of heard with like predictions, I'm hoping this is going to be kind of like a sequel to The Eyes of the Dragon, but I don't know exactly if that's going to be the case or not. I know a lot of people have wanted a sequel to The Eyes of the Dragon, and we have not gotten anything. Also, keys to a parallel world. Maybe it could be with Rowan the Gunslinger and like the Dark Tower world. I don't know. I'm hoping for either some Dark Tower connection or the Eyes of the Dragon connection with this book, but who knows? But definitely with it being Stephen King, I'm very excited for that. And that gets released in September, if I'm not mistaken. So, can't wait for that to come out. So, there you have the most anticipated release for the rest of the year, Stephen King Fairy Tale. Alright, next up on the list is Biggest Disappointment. I honestly, this year I feel like I've had a couple disappointments, but I would say the biggest one is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. So, this book to me, I was heavily disappointed because it was said to be kind of similar to how like it was getting set up for me like it was going to be like Only Murders in the Building, where it's like a comedy like murder type thing in an apartment. And I didn't get that whatsoever. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't remember almost anything in this book. Like, I remember almost nothing. I remember someone who you thought something happened to, it like didn't. That's like the only thing I can recall. And I'm pretty sure we're following a woman's point of view, if I'm also not mistaken. But I just absolutely did not enjoy this book whatsoever. I had a couple other options I thought of for this. I actually was going to put Gwendy's Final Task, but ultimately this book, The Paris Apartment, it just didn't work for me in any form of fashion. So, completely don't know what happened, don't remember, and quite frankly don't care. Sorry if you enjoyed this book, it just really didn't click for me. So, biggest disappointment so far, The Paris Apartment, Lucy Foley.
Great cover, though.
Yeah, I would say that's the one thing they got right on this. Alright, on the contrary of the biggest disappointment, the biggest surprise for me, I'm using this as like biggest surprises in it was just like a surprise with how good it was compared to what a lot of people had said about the book versus like the book actually being like, oh my god, it's so good. And that is The Tommyknockers by Stephen King. Everyone hates this book. By what I can recall everyone saying about this book, it was just terrible. Obviously, this was his, like, peak of his, like, cocaine abuse, and, like, you could definitely tell there was a lot of effed up things in this book, but realistically, in my opinion, it's not as bad as a lot of people say. Is there a lot of, like, weird things that happened towards the end? Yeah, but that was... Because the problem with this book, in my opinion, is you're getting a really coked up Stephen King for the first, like, 3/4, like, 7/8 of the book, and the last bit is just, like, he's sobered up, and there's definitely a change in the writing style. But I didn't hate it. I consider this like a Dreamcatcher for this year. Like, Dreamcatcher got 5 stars for me. Tommyknockers got 4.5. It honestly wasn't that bad. I honestly thoroughly enjoyed this better than Under the Dome, in my honest opinion. So that's why I'm putting this as big a surprise for me this year, because it's just so good. Basically what you're getting out of this is this woman is walking her dog and in the woods, and she stumbles across this big silver disc in the floor, and it turns out to be an alien spaceship. But what like ekes out of the spaceship is like this weird thing that grants people like superpowers, and like they're able to build things with their mind, and like the dog starts getting better even though it was supposed to be like dying. And the whole town gets messed up. They all start like changing, and the only person who like has an immunity to it is this one guy, because he's got like a metal plate in his skull, so like the radiation doesn't get to him quite as fast. And a lot of people hate that like plot point of like him having some of an immunity because of a metal plate in his head. I thought it made sense, but I don't know. Whatever. Biggest surprise 2022 so far is The Tommyknockers by Stephen King. Alright, next question is, favorite new author, debut or new to you? So I think this was the second or third book I read this year, and that is The Maid by Nita Prose. So the author for me would be Nita Prose. I gave this book 5 stars. It was very, very good. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I did a reading vlog on this. If you have not seen that, check it out up here. It took me by surprise. You're following this woman who is a maid at this hotel, and she stumbles across a dead body in a room, and she like kind of has a panic, runs out of the room, and then she's immediately accused because she was like the last person who was seen with the body. And it's this really funny story. It like there's a lot of like funny parts in it. There's a lot of serious parts in it. I remember in that reading vlog, I remember like bashing the main character because she's like kind of got some weird things going on. But then like towards the end, I was like, actually, she's a really good character. And she really honestly was. I don't remember her name. Molly, yeah. She's a very nice, interesting character. So I would definitely give this book a read. And Nita Prose, definitely a very good debut novel for me on this one, and I cannot wait to see what else they come out with. So there you have favorite new author, Nita Prose. All right, so I'm skipping the next one. This one is newest favorite character. A lot of people have read this book are probably going to say, why would I put him as my favorite new character? And I'm just kind of basing it off of Ben Affleck's adaptation of him, and that is Nick Dunn from Gone Girl. I just enjoyed him as a character. Obviously, he's not the best husband, he's not the greatest person in the world, but at the end of the day, I would definitely deem him like, they kind of show it as like, he's human. He's gonna make mistakes, he's not the most perfect person in the world. Obviously, he's flawed. He kind of reminds me of a more, I don't want to say PG, but like a non-murderous version of Jack Torrance. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's kind of the vibe I got from him, minus like him going crazy and wanting to kill his family. But I definitely would say Nick Dunn is definitely a character that I would say is like, has been my favorite so far this year. Nick Dunn, favorite new character of 2022 so far. Alright, next question is book that made you cry or sad, upset. I'm going to try not to spoil anything because the scenes that take place are towards the end of the book. And that is These Silent Woods by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. Honestly took me by... This honestly would have been the biggest surprise if the Tommyknockers... I didn't want to try and use the same book twice. Unfortunately, for favorite new character, I couldn't think of anyone else besides Nick Dunn. I probably could have used the father in this book. I just didn't. Pretty much you're following this father and daughter who live out in the woods. There's this weird, creepy neighbor guy, and like they're on the run because something happened to the mother, and like the dad's, I think, the one who's like accused of like what happened. And so they're on the run, they're hiding, and the ending of this book it just gets you, and it's annoying because I can't really say what it is, but just know that a character makes a certain sacrifice to save others, and it honestly got to me, and like you could like Danielle will tell you, it like did. I was like, oh my god, no, why are they doing this? And I ultimately gave this 5 stars, and it's got contention for, this also could have been best book of the year for me so far, but then I read Gone Girl, so this is definitely the biggest surprise of this year, but it also is like made me the saddest. So there you have Book That Made You Cry or Sad, The Silent Woods, Kimmy Cunningham Grant. Alright, this next one is the opposite, Book That Made You Happy, and that is Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. That's another author. I don't believe I'm saying the last name correctly, and I apologize. We just did a reading vlog on this book. Check it out up here if you have not. This book was pretty solid. I think I gave it 5 stars, 4.5. I think I sit at 4, but after time thinking about it, it's a 5. This woman is a recovering drug addict, and she gets a job with a family with babysitting their son. There's lots of plot twists throughout the entirety of the book, and I definitely say the ending like makes me super happy because certain people get what they deserve, and one of the people gets away and they're happy. I'm very excited for the ending of this book. I was thrilled with how it ended. I just can't say anything because it would spoil the book, obviously. So, but I'm just, this book was really good. So check out the reading vlog. Book that made me the happiest so far this year, Hidden Pictures, Jason Rekulak. All right, next up, most beautiful book you've bought this year so far or was received. Earlier in the year, we went to a Half Price Books and we found a Under the Dome that had the, I don't know what color this would be deemed, but like bronze, like a bronze strap going across it. And it actually has got like a map of the town in the inside cover, which none of the other editions do. The unfortunate thing with this book is it was missing playing cards. There's supposed to be like playing cards with like main spots of the town and I think like characters or something like that. And this did not come with it. So that's a little upsetting, but ultimately this book looks absolutely stunning. I read this book earlier this year. This invisible dome falls over a town. Town goes to hell. Weird things happen. But ultimately this book looks really cool. I would definitely say it's the best looking thing that I've gotten this year so far. There are some books that were sent to me that look really cool, but I just think this special edition Under the Dome just looks cool. So, best looking book I've gotten so far this year, Under the Dome, Stephen King, weird bronze strapped edition. I don't know what they call it, but that's what I'm going to call it. All right, the last question. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? There's a lot that I definitely would say I need to read by the end of the year. But there is one in particular, technically there's 2, but I started one a year after the other. I started this book in 2020, maybe even 2019. It's been a long time. But that is Insomnia by Stephen King. This has been sitting on my Goodreads for probably 2-3 years as I've read maybe 100-something pages. And I gotta tell you, out of all the books that I have like stated that I have not finished, this book probably gets the most attention because everyone says it's so good. It's got so many Dark Tower references. It's like, out of all the non-Dark Tower books to read with references to the Dark Tower, this is the one to read. And I started it 3 years ago. I think I started it right after I read Pet Sematary, maybe. It's just been sitting in my, like, being read category on Goodreads for 3 years. Everyone says I need to read this. Everyone says I need to read 1122. Everyone says I need to read this, that, But I would definitely say that Insomnia is the big one that everyone says I gotta read. This is a book about a guy who gets insomnia and starts seeing stuff. I guess a lot of the stuff he sees is from the Dark Tower world, I guess. But I definitely need to get to this sooner rather than later. And I cannot wait to finally get to this book eventually. But until then, this is definitely the book I need to finish by this year. Insomnia, Stephen King. Alright, so that is my mid-year book Freakout tag 2022 edition. A lot of cool books. There was actually a few more King books than I actually had thought. What are some of the answers you have to these questions? We'll have the questions linked down below. Let me know in the comment section what your answers might be. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Later.